One. Welcome back to Keeping It Real on Be-Moor Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Jonathan, and I'm with my man.
What's up? It's your boy Kevin Moore. Glad
All
to
right,
be
most
back.
definitely. Most definitely. Good, good, awesome. We have a very special guest today on Keeping It
Special
Real.
guest. Oh yeah.
One of the superstars of critically acclaimed Netflix series, Last Chance Basketball. They switched from football. They started doing basketball now, which I think is a really dope concept. Being able to switch from football going to basketball. You can tell. I think you could tell like a little bit more intimate stories. What about you, Kevin? What you think?
Oh yeah, for sure. I was excited when they decided to make the move from football to basketball because I feel like the fans wanted to see a different sport. They got to see football for the last few years, so I feel like they wanted to switch it up, and I'm glad they chose basketball. Really intense competitive sport, and they chose the perfect school in my opinion. So I'm definitely glad.
Yeah, awesome. All right, let's. I'm gonna give a short bio of Coach. It's his second season as an assistant at East LA Community College. He had a very successful 20-year run as a head coach at Notre Dame High School in Riverside, California. Coach Rob, he was born in Kansas City, Missouri, and he moved to
Yeah.
California to finish high school. After graduating, he went to Allen Hancock Community College, played at Stephen F. Austin State University, and then he ended his playing career at UC Riverside. He also ran track at UC Riverside, qualifying for the NCAA National Championship Finals in the high jump in '96. He is one of the many stars in Netflix's Last Chance U, which premiered back in March. Coach, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great, Jon and Kev. I'm doing well as stereotypical as it is. I mean, I was in traffic. It's just I was hustling. I was in LA traffic. I was in the office today. One of our first days actually back in the office, and I was cleaning up things and jumped on that freeway, and I was stuck. But I was grinding to get here. I was chewing it up to get here to be here on time.
Awesome, man. We're really glad to have you. All right, we're gonna get right into it. I want to ask. I want to start with the series first. I
Yeah.
want to. I want to ask, what is the significance of the exposure that something like Last Chance U can bring to JUCOs, community colleges as a whole?
That is the significant impact that we had is that our show had in East LA has had on JCs. It's going to be pretty big, especially from a basketball standpoint. As you alluded to earlier, the football has done it, and so the country, if you're really into sports, then you probably watched the football show and got a feel for what JC like football was, but you didn't get a feel for like the rest of the culture of community college or JC. And I think after the show came out, that's the thing we were most proud of as a staff is that I think we shone a light on junior college across the country, and not from a sports standpoint, but like from what it can do for young men and how like if community support like what we're doing, like we can really support young men and help them get through some difficult situations, or just be that transitionary period from high school to a 4-year college or out into the workforce. So we were that's the thing we were we were most pleased about, not necessarily the entertainment factor of the show, but that like we shone a light. And so if you got anybody in the world or anybody in America, if there's a junior college close, hey, support them, because if you support what we do, like we're really making a difference in young people's lives.
All right, awesome. Now, I want to ask next, what has the show specifically done for East LA since its release? Like effect on the players, coaches, the
Oh
school, like
man,
yeah.
yeah, it's it's a before and after. Like there was East LA and there was our East LA community college basketball team, and then the show came out,
Yeah.
and now it's definitely an after. It's not a stretch to say that we're probably the most famous junior college in America, like presently, especially in the sports world. So you're recognized. Everywhere you go, different places. I think the coolest thing is being recognized in gyms, though. I have to tell you that every gym I go in, uh, I've lived my whole life in gyms. My entire life has been spent in a gym, but I'm recognized whenever I go. I go to a high school game, the kids recognize me, little kids recognize you, and that's pretty cool. especially from a recruiting standpoint, when they know you before you know them. So it's it's Netflix will change some things. I'm gonna tell you that. Netflix will change some things, but it hasn't been completely overwhelming. Our head coach probably gets a little bit more than what I get. But it hasn't been overwhelming, and I've enjoyed the exposure and things just like this, talking to you guys and being able to talk sports with people. I've been on shows in France and Texas and England and South America, Brazil, and just meeting different people and then talking hoops. It's been incredible.
Man, we got a popular figure here right here, man. We have to take advantage of this presence he's blessing us with.
Right.
Hey, you better jump on it now because these windows ain't big. Ain't nobody gonna remember brother come September.
No, we will.
I was gonna say y'all up there with the UCLA's and the Cal Berkeley's now.
Hey, that is you know what? It is weird. It is weird to I could be standing next to UCLA's coach at a gym and they wouldn't know who he is. They don't know who that guy. I mean, he's short. He's an incredible coach, man. That guy can go, man. But they wouldn't, kids wouldn't even know. They'd be like, "Hey, look, there's Coach Rob," and they'd be like, "Well, who's the short white guy next to him?" Who that guy? So, well, there is a difference though, because I'm pretty sure that dude's pulling $5 million a year. So there's a big difference.
Throw the money figure in there.
Taking that tax money, man.
But it is. But even from our player standpoint, our players are more recognized than the players at USC and some UCLA and some gyms. But that is like I said, that exposure will change things.
Absolutely. Yeah. So going back to the Netflix series, so did the show itself bring a change amongst the players when the cameras were on them? Did they kind of switch gears, like a light switch on and off when the cameras were on? Off?
Yeah, it was adjustment for all of us. I mean, because one day there's no cameras, there's no microphones, and then the next day there is. And I remember the first time they came on campus. Actually, the first time they came on campus, they came for the first week of school, and it was really laid back. They just kind of did the gym and the tryouts, and they really weren't in depth. So we kind of thought that's how it was going to be. But when they showed up later or when the season started, it was real. And they'll I pull up and I get out my car, and when I get out my car, they mic me up. Then it starts, and then the guy's on it. He's got a camera and he follows me around for the rest of the day. And at the beginning, it's you kind of don't know what to say or how to interact, and you're kind of cautious. But after a week or two, you really get used to it. And the players, they were a little extra in the beginning. The cameras came on, they was a little extra. They were a little louder, a little bolder, just a little bit. Not in practice though, because our practices are so hard. You don't have time to be extra. You can't even think straight. We just gangster fools for 2 hours. So they can't even, if they tried, there's not enough energy to be extra in basketball practice, but off the court. But then they got used to it. And that's one of the things that the show really got right, was it's authentic. And the way those players acted, that's how they are. They weren't doing anything for the cameras. If you saw Coach Mosley, that's the way he is. If you saw him in practice, you'd just be like, my gosh, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. But then as soon as it's over, coolest guy you've ever been around, just like in the show. And they nailed that aspect of it. And once we all kind of got used to it, it was simple. To fact, when it was over, even today, I was just saying, this is one of the first days. Today's one of the first days I've been in the office. I worked today in the office, and it was weird not having those cameras there, actually, because my memory of being there is as I'm sitting at my desk, I would just be doing this at a computer, and there's a camera right there, right there, and then you're mic'd up all day, and as you guys probably can figure out, like, you're not supposed to be mic'd up all day. Nobody.
Right.
Like, no, nobody is. No one should know what you're talking about the whole entire day.
Mhm.
So it's needless to say, they kept all that stuff out. They made us look really good. I sure appreciate them. They know what they're doing. Last Chance U knows what they're doing.
That's good. Now, I want to know, just like from the production side, did y'all have the freedom to like kind of tell them like, hey, like we don't want this shot on camera, especially when dealing
Oh
something
yeah,
with
for
like,
sure. You
yeah,
can there were times, I mean, there was things going on in my life, and my wife would call and I'd be like, hey, this is turn this off, or this isn't for the cameras, or even when you have an interaction with a player, because they got some sensitive things that they're going through, and it's like, that's like, hey, there'll be none of this, or hey, don't follow us in here, we gotta go talk about this. And they were really good. They were really good about that. We gave them, I mean, we gave them 95% access. They had access to everything. But there are some things that are sensitive to a young student athlete that shouldn't be out there unless he wants it to be out there. And there's times where the kids would be like, hey, coach, let me talk to you. But he only wanted to talk to me, or he only wanted to talk to Mo. So it's that did happen. But I mean, most of the day though, you would 3-4 times a day, I would be like, I'd be talking just like I'm talking to you guys, and then I'd be like, hey, don't record this. and then we go on. But they recorded it. I'm sure they did. It's on the editing floor somewhere.
Can you talk about the whole community college as far as the athletics in California, and talk about the tough battles that the other states don't have to deal with?
Yeah, it's California community college is a real grind. I mean, JC's everywhere is a grind. It really is. But California is interesting because we don't have any scholarships, and we can't pay for tuition. We can't pay for books. We can't pay for housing. We can't pay for food. It's the system itself is designed for the community. You're supposed to, California community college don't have dorms. There's only a couple in the state of California that even have housing. So it's designed for you to live in your community and go to that college. So it's to say it's a challenge is an understatement. One of the things I think they left out of the show is it was every day. It was a miracle that we even had practice at 3 o'clock at where we are, because we only had a couple kids who lived close to East LA. Our kids lived everywhere throughout LA, from the Valley to the Inland Empire, to the fringes of Orange County, to the harbor area. And and on a map, if I was to show you that, those places are not close, and especially in California, where going 10 miles will take you an hour because of traffic. It's it was quite the task every day to get every kid on that campus, in class, in study hall, taped up at practice at 3 o'clock, like to go through that whole entire process. And every day at 3, this coaching staff and me and Mo, we would just look at each other and just like, thank God we're here. We can practice. Like, let's go. Cause so many things can go wrong. We got kids on trains and buses and Ubers and sharing rides. And it was quite the logistic battle, but that's what you got to deal with out here, because like we don't have dorms and housing. So we were just grateful. But that's one of the things I think the show kind of missed, was how difficult it was for our students to get to the school each day. Mine was, I mean, I lived 50 miles away, and it was, I lived in the Inland Empire in Riverside, and I would drive down like every day, and I'd spend 3 hours a day in my car, and sometimes more in traffic, just to get to that gym for practices and study halls. So it was tough. There's a lot of challenges to coaching junior college in California.
wow, yeah, like you said, the logistics that can bring a totally different level of pressure on trying to have success. I want to ask, how can you and the coaching staff make sure that the team gets to win while ensuring that the players get like the numbers, the exposure, and the grades that they need to get to the next level?
Yeah, JUCO is an interesting dynamic, JC is, because if you think about, like, if you're on a highway, and on a highway, you know, there's going east and then there's going west, like the other way. But junior college, it's like that same highway, but both roads are going in the same direction. And those two roads are going to be the team and their success, and then the other road is the individual and then their success, because that's why they're there. They're there. You go into junior college because you're trying to move on, and in our case, if you're good, and there's some pretty good ones out here in California and throughout the country, when you have really talented guys, that can be difficult because they have to do what they have to do while you're trying to win simultaneously. So it's a real balance. It's a real balancing act for the players. Now, for the coaches, it's pretty simple. You teach fundamentals and you coach to win the game. You know, you have a philosophy of how you coach. Like our coach loves post players, and so he'd rather take less of a post player than a better of a guard. He just loves post guys. And so we're going to run our offense and we're going to get the ball inside. And so guards aren't going to be featured as much, but he has such a good reputation. He's been so successful, Coach Mo has, for the last 6-7 years, that you don't have to put up the big numbers on a winning team in order to move on. And also, guys in college basketball, like, if you're a scholarship athlete, you're a scholarship athlete. You can see it. 6'8" dudes that can jump, they're not working at the grocery store. It don't work like that. No, them dudes, people want them. Like, they're like, here. Like, there's a scene in the show where I'm talking about, like, if you're tall, like, schools are literally like, here's money, come to our school. Like here's an education. But if you're 6'1", you can be great, and they're not even looking at you. They're like, yeah, like, whatever. There's a million 6'1" dudes, but there isn't a lot of big dudes. But it can be a challenge, you know, coaching a team and knowing that kid has to be successful individually as well. And that's where it can be tough. And when you see on the show all the emotion involved with a young man, I mean, that's on their mind. That's heaven. That's really heavy on their mentals the whole time. It's like, I got to do better so I can get out of here. I got to get this scholarship. And when you're 18 or 19 or 20, you don't understand big picture stuff. You know, you're so micro, you're not macro. And the kids, you know, they equate, because if you played high school sports at all, you equate numbers with how good you were, or that was your, like, if you lost and you had 40, it was, oh, great game. That's it. If you lost and had a couple touchdowns, hey, great game. It's just a great game. And so they equate, like, their numbers with success, whereas in college, numbers don't really equate to success. We played teams that had guys that averaged 25 points a game, and, you know, they're getting partial scholarships at a Division II or NAIA. And our guards average 6 and 8 points a game, and they got Division I scholarships. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily the numbers, but that being said, like, if you're an athlete, like, you know a D1 athlete when you see it. Now, skill wise, that can be, you know, there's a lot of really good skilled basketball players who just don't have the size and the speed to be able to compete at the Division I level, but they're really skilled basketball players. But you know a D1 guy when you see it. Like, when the first time you ever walk into our gym and you see KJ Allen spin and turn up and go up, you're like, yep, that's it right there. Like that's no, you like, all right, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Or a guy like Malik, you know, he's 6'9". When he has to duck to come into the door, you're like, okay, all right, that's what it's supposed to look like there. And even from a guard standpoint, man, you see that guard, like, boom, one dribble from the 3-point line, he takes off and bangs. You're like, okay, that's a D1 guard. Like, you see it. So, but the challenge is real, fellas, on that highway, with both going in the same direction. And Coach Mosley has to be cognizant of that at all times. He has to be thinking, like, it's their road and then it's the team's road. But he puts such an emphasis on the team road. And our whole thing from like, right now, as we're dealing with kids getting ready for the summer, and then when we start in the fall, is getting them to buy into the success of the team. And if the team's successful, if you're a Division I athlete and our team's successful, you're going to get out. And that's what happened. In our last season, we had 10 sophomores, and all 10 got a deal. All of them got a deal and got out.
Wow. Awesome. Have them think about the bigger picture.
Yeah, macro.
That's a good point you made. Like being young, you come in like, oh, I just got to get the numbers. That's what they'll see. But Coach Mosley making the emphasis on team and bigger picture.
Team, man, and trust. We have to get those young men to trust in us. It's hard. Like we had a guy on our bench that we had a guy on our. Well, actually, I'll go to our point guard. Our point guard averaged about 27 a game in high school. He had a 70-point game in high school once.
Wow.
Right?
This is Deshaun Heiler?
No, LJ.
Oh, okay.
Like LJ. Like LJ is an incredible offensive player, but coach got him to just buy into this is what you do. And what we're trying to get the kids to understand is that like what we're doing and what we're teaching, like that translates to the next level. And so that's what coaches want to see. So when you see a guy, getting 25, 30 a game at high school or the JC level, yeah, you don't see him do that in college. Exactly. And so when a college coach is coming in there to our gym, they like what they see in our practices and our players, because the same moves that they're making, the same shots that they're taking translates to the Division I level. And that's important, because you guys, if you can remember back to your old high school days, and I've been in high school gyms for the last like 2 months watching every basketball game. It's volume. Like dudes take 15, 16 shots. That's why they score so many points. And, at a high level of college basketball, yeah, you get 5 shots, maybe 7, right? That's you better make the most of them. So they got to be good shots. And so it can be a struggle for those kids to make that adjustment and to trust us. Like it's hard to tell a kid like, dude, all right, trust me, 7 points a game. We win 28 games. We win a championship. You're strong with the ball. You're playing Division I basketball. And he's like, how's that? How can that be? Like, how can that be? I'm not getting 30. Like, how can that be? But you gotta trust you guys. You gotta trust in the process. And that's what Mosley does better than anybody. He gets them to buy in. He gets them to trust. He has the track record. But as you saw on the show, it's not like it's easy. Yeah, they might trust you, but not like they don't fight you every day over it.
Exactly. Now you talked about trusting the process and how Coach Mosley and your coaching staff do a really good job at getting your players to buy in. So can you talk about the mentorship side of coaching? How it's just not coaching, but being a mentor as well to these young men?
Oh yeah, it's man, I miss the way my body felt when I was that age. But my goodness, I do not miss thinking like them fools think. That is for sure. And you have a heart for them, because you don't know no better when you're 18, 19, or 20. I mean, you literally don't know any better. And we are constantly, as coaches, reminding ourselves every day that was once us. You have to realize that every day. Like that was once us. That crazy thing he just said or just did, like that was us, like at one time. And so from a mentor standpoint, we see that, and that's what we're trying to build. The basketball is 2 hours out of 24 in a day. So the other 22 is where the real coaching happens. Like the basketball part is more teaching. Like you go on the court and you teach for 2 hours. But then the other 22, you're coaching a kid up. And when I mean by coaching, like you're motivating him to be better than what he is, because that's where life happens. You can learn some valuable lessons on that court, and that's what we're trying to teach. Hard work, being part of a team, being able to deal with like reactions and losing, because basketball is a hard sport. It's tough to be successful, and when you're not as good as you think you should be, or you don't play as much, like how do you react to that? But yeah, we spend our whole day just trying to lead these young men to be better young men. And that can be tough, even as a high school coach, because you don't really get to see it. Like, yeah, you don't get to see it. Like, it happens 8 years down the road and they come back and be like, man, coach, man, you was right. And you did this and it made a difference in my life. And then you're looking at the kid like, then why'd you make my life so hard? Why you here? You know, like, why, how come you didn't listen to any of that when I was coaching you? But you're planting seeds, you know, and you're growing and these kids is growing, you know. On the show, the biggest outwardly figure obviously was Joe Hampton, our 6'8" post player. And Joe's at Long Beach State right now. He has no issues. Like, Joe's doing great.
Wow.
But he had to get through what he had to get through right there. Like, he was hard on us. Like, he made our lives really difficult, right? And so, but now he's like, oh, I get it, you know. And that's what these kids need. Like, you don't get it at 18 or 19. You got to go through some things. And so that's the big deal. The big deal is the 22 hours, not the 2. And so you gotta mentor them. You have to build relationships with them, so they can trust you on and off the court. And you gotta accept that they're not going to always do right. You know, it's that's why they're there. Like, you saw, like, on the show, we had a really talented basketball team. I mean, look at all the. Look at all the D1 talent we had on our team. Well, that only happens if something drastically went wrong in those kids' lives. Like, something went wrong for you to be that good and to be in our gym. And so that's what we're dealing with when they walk in the door. Like, it's something. And so you got to help those kids get through that. And that's something usually isn't basketball. Like, them kids can play basketball. They have the size and the speed and the strength to play basketball, but it's something else in their life that happened. And so that's what we're coaching. We're coaching to get them right in that aspect so that when they go to the next place, they used what we did so they can grow and then they can flourish to wherever they're going, whether that be the Division I level, the Division II level, or more importantly, after they even get a degree.
Yeah, most definitely. The relationships that, and we could see this through the series, like the relationships that y'all had with the players. Like I really like the scene with Joe. He kind of had a tantrum, went in the locker room, but then Coach, that was Coach Hunter. He had went back there and like calmed him down. Then he was able to come back out there and you know, make it do what it do.
Yeah,
But it's just like that little stuff like that. It's just like, wow, like man, you got to be really connected to that player as a person.
You really well, what I like to say is, like, the moment I meet you, like, if you, Jonathan, today, where you're going to commit to ELAC today, and you're like, hey, we coming to play for you, Coach Rob. At that moment, I'm building credit. This is when it starts. I'm building credit right now because Ken had been building credit with Joe Hampton for 8 months, and he had to cash it in on that day. That was the day he had to go in there and cash in that credit. And that's what you got to do with young men. You got to build that credit. You got to be authentic with them. You got to be real. You got to be willing to help them out. You got to be there for them, knowing that when things get difficult during the season, like, you're going to have to go in and cash that back in. Like, hey, I built that up. Now I got to get paid too. So I need you to put your stuff back on and go back out there and finish that practice. But that's one of the incredible things that Coach Hunter does. Coach Hunter can calm down any situation. I mean, any situation. This whole last week, I got the news on in the background, and as usual, they tripping in the middle. They just tripping in the Middle East. I'm like, hey, they need to call Coach Hunter, because Coach Hunter run over there, man, got everybody calm. Everybody be chilled out, man. That dude is he's definitely a calming influence because he doesn't raise his voice.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And he talks to you so real at all times, and he has a way of, his presence puts everything into perspective at all times. Everything is his presence alone. So, man, we're grateful to have Ken, and he saves us with Joe that day when Joe went Joe, because that was happening all the time, man. Joe was tripping on that show. Joe was tripping, but you know. Think about being that good and going through that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, think about that. And think about being that good and coach put you on the third team every day. Like Joe was acting out. Like, you couldn't quite see the basketball dynamic of it, but I mean, he wasn't rewarded. Like he was on the third team with some red shirts, you know, and the student manager out there hooping in practice, mad because they can't bring the ball up the court, but he done missed some practice, so you don't get to be on the first or the second team, or think about the mental aspect of like a high D1. Like we had a top at the time, we had a top 5 school in the country, a Big 12 school, call Joe Hampton and talk to him and say, hey, we're going to need you next year. Like they wanted Joe Hampton. And then he gets off the phone and goes to practice, and he's got on like a yellow jersey, like he's on the third string. That'll mess with you mentally, you know, but that's what he had to get to. But Joe's an incredible kid, one of the nicest, kindest, and giving guys you've ever been around.
Nice.
All right, quick shout out to Coach Hunter too, man. That's a Detroit guy right there.
Yeah. He was just in Detroit. Hey, when he says he's Detroit, he's Detroit. He talks every day like he still lives in Detroit. And I'm like, dude, you live in South Central, man. You know, he talks. He's still like he's in Detroit. He's still tapped in with everybody there at all times. That dude is. Yeah. Even when he talks, it's Michigan basketball. It's Lions football. Like he acts like he ain't even LA, man. He's all the time.
Yeah. All right. We're gonna switch gears. We're winding down now. I was doing my research. I came across something really interesting, Coach.
Okay.
Got the good.
Got the
something
good?
really, something really interesting.
What you got?
I want to talk to you about your experience as a player coach of the Columbus Cagers of the USBL.
Oh, man.
Now, Coach, you was context, you were 25 years old.
25, yeah.
25 years old as a player coach of a professional league. Like, how does that happen? How does that happen?
Man, it was it was, when I tell you it was an experience, bro. It was. The team was in Tampa Bay like the year before, and my uncle knew the owner, and when they were in Tampa Bay, and they decided to move to Columbus, and he had got me in. And so I was there, and I was more the assistant general manager when it started, but I'd worked my way into practicing with the guys. I was capable of playing with them, but my kind of career was going in a different direction. But I had suited up a couple games, and as I was kind of getting my groove and getting myself in shape and thinking maybe I might be able to do something in this league, they fired the coach, who was Bobby Knight's kid, Pat Knight, who was a great guy.
Wow.
A great guy, man. He was a lot of fun to be around. Good coach too. But they'd fired him, and they came in and they were like, hey, either you're the coach or the season's over. Like, what's it going to be? And and then that's when the fun began. That's when the fun began, because before that, like, you know, you would fly to Tampa, you'd fly to DC, or you go to these places, and when I tell you, they literally gave me the keys to a rented van. It's like, all right, you're gonna drive the team to the games. So it was me and like 8 or 9 brothers, and we was rolling up and down the East Coast, like Raleigh, Camden, New Hampshire. It was quite the experience, because I was young, you know. I was young, you know. When one night I'm drinking beers with the guys and hanging out, and the next day I got to sub them in and out. So it was an interesting experience, but it was cool. I met some cool people. I mean, the league, even the coaches itself, like Rick Barry was a coach, Earl Curitan from the Detroit Pistons back in the day was a coach. Hey, Daryl Dawkins was a coach in that league. So there's me with all these dudes like coaching, and we was winning too. Like, we was winning. We got to the Final Four of that league. It was cool. It was a cool experience, but it was man, I learned a lot about people, and I learned a little bit about the game, and just being around professional guys, because there's no holds bar with men. That's true. But I was one at the same time, you know. I was one at the same time. So it was a really good coaching experience, but when you're playing in the minor leagues back then, there was no money, there was no health care. It was rough. It was really rough. So I was recently married, and my wife was about to have our first boy, KJ, and after like doing that for 3 or 4 months, I was like, "No, I'm out. Like I'm gonna go back." And that's how I landed in high school. I was like, "Let me get something that's a little slower down here. That's more my pace." But it was quite the experience of it was me in the van and and 8, 6, 9 dudes in a van driving all up and down the East Coast for 2 months, just balling, just hooping, and you can imagine the stuff they was getting into everywhere. I mean, because it wasn't like I was like, there's no chaperones. I ain't no babysitter. These is men. These dudes is men. They acting up everywhere we go. And I was just hopeful they was at the van the next morning or got to the arena on time, like each game. So it was quite the experience.
All right, that's good. All right, to close out, we want to hit you with some quick hitters.
For
I'm
sure.
going to ask you a question, like just say like the first thing that comes to your mind. All right, you ready?
The answer is chicken.
Hey, one
Right,
thing
bet. Good enough for
I'm
me.
glad you said chicken, because one thing Coach Rob can do is cook.
Oh,
I remember the show where they went up to the cabin and you threw down over there. I was like, man,
I'm from Kansas City, and if you can't barbecue and you're from Kansas City, they'll take your city card. They won't let you in the city. You gotta be able to barbecue and smoke a rack if you're from KC. So I've been doing that my whole life.
All right, dope. All right, first question. Your pick for the NBA Finals. Who's playing and who wins?
My pick for the NBA Finals. Well, that's an interesting. I think I know the popular pick is Brooklyn, but I think Milwaukee gets out this year. Only, and it's not sentimental. It kind of seems like the law of averages to me. It's like I think they should have got out the last couple years and they didn't. And when you're supposed to do it, it's kind of difficult. But right now, it's like the Nets and the Sixers are kind of probably be favored a little bit. And when that happens, usually the tide turns. So it almost feels like the 76ers in the early 80s, when it's like it's just their turn. It's like it's their turn to do it. And they got the team to do it. That's not the question, right? It's not the question. They got the squad to do it. They won a game the other day, and I just saw that dude didn't make a shot outside the free throw, outside the paint. Like he was 0 for 13 outside the paint, big boy. And when I was driving tonight, my son was in the car. He said, like, yeah, they up 30. Like he said they was hooping. So I think Milwaukee gets out. And the West is complicated. And the West is complicated. It's complicated because the Lakers didn't play. Like they don't even look right on the court. Like if they could have been straight since February, I don't think anybody beats them 4 out of 7 games. You can beat the Lakers. You can beat them. But beating the Lakers 4 out of 7 would have been very difficult if LeBron's healthy and he feels like running up and down the court. Because if that dude feels like running up and down the court, you're not going to beat the Lakers. He's unstoppable. What he does is unstoppable. And AD, if he's in his groove and if he's healthy and he's in shape, then he scores 30 every other game. And if LeBron is where he's at and AD is doing that, they were going to win the West. The West is open now because of this situation. This is what I think. If the Lakers get past Phoenix, the NBA is going to have problems with them because they need 2 or 3 more weeks to kind of get this thing together. If they're going to get them, I think right now is the time. A couple weeks from now, if they're healthy and they get to play 7, 8 games, then at the high level, because that's another thing, in the playoffs, they're playing real basketball. Like the NBA is incredible, any of those 82 games. Don't get me wrong, but the playoffs is like they play on both ends for 48 minutes. And
tight rotations too.
And yeah, it is. And so you're getting quality minutes. So like during the regular season, like you need 4, 6, 8 weeks to catch your groove. In the playoffs, you only need 7, 10 days because of how you are playing. So they only need about 7, 10 days. And if they can get past Phoenix, I think it'll be the Lakers and Milwaukee. I'm not buying Utah. I'm not buying Utah at all. I'm not.
Why not?
Hey,
Why
well,
not?
I'm gonna tell you why I'm not buying Utah. Because I've never bought Utah. I've never bought Utah. Never. When I was a kid, I remember the first time I even saw the Jazz play. I remember like it didn't even look right. Jerseys didn't doesn't even look right. I'm like, nah, I ain't messing. Ain't nobody messing with you. They've had some great teams though, especially those Malone teams.
Yeah, Stockton. Yeah,
They had Malone and they had Stockton, but that's also the 90s, and
yep.
I don't necessarily count the 90s so much. The greatness of MJ, no question. There's no denying that. But expansion ruined the league, and there was no more great teams. Like there just wasn't. Like if you look back, and even MJ's teams, you'll be like, well, who'd he beat? And there'd be like one person on each team that he played that he beat. Like you still had to win it. But if you was in the 80s and you won a championship, you played against 5 Hall of Famers that started on the Celtics or the Pistons or the Sixers or the Lakers. Like the whole team was Hall of Famers. And so when we got to the 90s, when it got watered down, when, LJ and Alonzo and all those dudes are on expansion teams instead of being in the league, it was it kind of got watered down. So the West, Utah, I'm not really buying them. I'm not buying them. Yeah, I tell you what I do like though. I like Dallas. I liked how Dallas was set up to go. Clippers are very talented. Clippers are talented. We get to see them out here, but don't nobody care. No, I don't care what the Clippers do. Don't nobody care. You can go to a Clipper game tonight and get you a ticket for like $30 outside. Yeah, you literally could. Like if you went down there, I don't know if they're playing tonight or tomorrow night, but if you went down to the Staples, there's dudes out there selling tickets for $30. Whereas the next week, it's $400 when the Lakers. It's the Clippers. They're about to move down to Inglewood, and they might be able to do their own. They might be able to do their own thing over there in Inglewood. That's a cool little spot to play. But so I like Milwaukee. And if the Lakers get out of Phoenix, I like the Lakers. And I think it'll come down to Phoenix and Dallas. I don't think Denver has enough because they lost their best offensive player. Dame's going to make any game interesting, but I think Dallas. If they can clip the Lakers, it's going to come down to Dallas or Phoenix. And my dark horse, call me crazy, but my dark horse is Dallas and Milwaukee, which nobody wants to see. Nobody wants to see that. If that's like we'll watch it because it's basketball, right? But if that time comes, man, and it's Brooklyn and LA, the world will stop. The world will stop, and we will all watch, and it will feel like Lakers Celtics, Lakers Sixers, Detroit Lakers. It'll feel like that because of all of the talent on the floor at one time. So that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for Lakers Nets and something that we'll always remember.
All right. Second one. Your favorite recruiting story.
My favorite recruiting story. Oh man. Well, shoot. When I was recruited, or when I was
either when you were recruited or you're recruiting a player.
Oh man, I'll tell you my favorite recruiting story when I was recruited. That I was recruited. San Diego State brought me in for the weekend, and San Diego State is close to the border, like Tijuana. And I think I was on campus for 10 minutes. Like they drove me right by San Diego State, and it was just one crazy weekend. That was it. And then they drove me back past San Diego State on the way, and they stopped and said, "Hey, we want you to sign." And I didn't see no classes, no buildings. I didn't know where I was going to live, like nothing. I was hanging out with basketball players, like in Tijuana and downtown San Diego. That was a cool story. But from a recruiting standpoint, I would say. Hey, you know what? Just recently, I went to go watch a team, two really good high school teams, and I'm going to recruit a kid. And so after the game, I go outside, and his entire team lines up to take a selfie with me, one at a time, because the entire team, and they were really cool about it, and they were great kids. And so that's when I knew, like, wow, like that show really can change some things. Like, fools know who you are. They really do. But that's their story now. Every time I go to meet a kid, and I've probably seriously recruited about 6 or 7 here in the last month. Like, all of them wanted to take a picture with me for Instagram or Twitter or something. So that's interesting. That's the story.
Yeah, like I said, he famous around here now. Everybody
Yeah.
knows Rob.
Hey, well, if you're part of the basketball community, it's not very big. And so if you're a real hooper, then you watch the show. I don't care what gym you're in, whether it be Florida, Texas, California, Detroit, like you watch it because you a ball.
Right.
And so that community is pretty small. So if like I can go into the football stadium in Alabama, they might not know who I am. But if I go into the basketball arena and because our community is so small, they'll be like, oh shoot, that's Coach Rob. Even with the mask on, people just notice the dome glistening. And they just see it. And they'd be like, is that Coach Rob? And I look at him like, oh yeah. I'm trying to keep light skin going. I'm gonna keep this as long as I can. I'm gonna keep it strong. I'm gonna keep it in, man. Mike tried to ruin it for me in the 90s, but I fought through. I fought through when Mike had everybody think you had to be tall and dark for a minute. We was able to make a comeback in the 2000s. I'm trying to hold on. I'm gonna keep it going.
Oh man! All right, your favorite moment from the Netflix series?
My favorite moment from the Netflix series. Now, you know what? No one's really asked me about my favorite moment. I've had some. My favorite moments were probably not the wins. It was just sometimes just watching Coach Mosley lose his mind. That was my favorite moment throughout the whole season. Actually, you know, probably my favorite moment was we were in Pasadena. We were at Pasadena City College, and one of our players, a Pac-12 team, came to watch one of our players play, and he didn't play well at all. And we go into the locker room, and the coach is upset and mad. We won the game, but he's upset because the kid lost his opportunity. Like the head coach and the top assistant came from Pullman, Washington to come watch this kid play because they wanted to offer him a scholarship. And he didn't play well at all. And so coach goes in there, and then it comes to him as he's talking to the kid that his girlfriend came in town. So his girlfriend is out of town. So she comes in town, and he's talking to Ken. He goes, wait, and your girlfriend's here. And he goes, what? He said, you going to ruin the scholarship, for that? He was like, is it that good? He's like, is it that good? And he's yelling at him. And in the back, Deshaun Hyler, right?
Yeah.
Deshaun Hyler, and he wasn't even quiet about it really either, but he looks up at me, right? And he's like, hey, Coach Rob, it might be that good. And everyone, and it kind of broke the ice at that moment, and everybody just started laughing like that moment. But you didn't get to see that, but that was probably one of the funniest things I've seen in a locker room under those circumstances.
Yeah.
When he say that, but when you coach and you're around that, I mean, that's every day. Like every day, those kids they'll make you laugh. They don't make you cry, but they'll definitely bring out some emotion in you.
Dope. All right, final one. What is the most important thing that you want viewers to know about the JUCO experience after watching Last Chance U basketball?
That the most important thing is about giving young kids a chance. And it doesn't have to be basketball. Like, it doesn't. Like, everyone comments like they can't believe how much patience we had, or why we kept guys on the team, or why, how do you deal with that? But it's like these kids can make it. Like just things that happened in their life. They needed help at that moment. Like, they needed us at that moment. And it doesn't have to be us. Like, it could be anybody. It could be the guy who owns, the Ace Hardware store, and the young kid is going through something who works for him. Like, get that kid a chance. Like, help him fight through it. And that's what I wanted everyone to kind of get from that and see, is that, hey, I know they say last chance, but just, you got to give them a chance and understand when young people make mistakes. And I say every day that, like, I wipe the whiteboard clean every day. No matter what happened today, like I'm gonna go to the office tomorrow morning and I'll wipe the whole board clean, and you get a fresh start with me today. As long as you come through that door and you're committed to be here, then I'm gonna be committed. And if more of us out there, you know, in our country, if they saw young people like that, we could really help some young brothers get through, man, and get through that, because 18 to 24 is rough. It is for a myriad of reasons. It is the pitfalls and things that can happen to you between that age, and you just need a little help and a little guidance and a little patience, and just understand, like on the back end of that, just like with our basketball team, you can't see the micro in a young man. You got to see the macro down the road, and he could really be something one day. And so you gotta invest in that. And that's what I want everybody to see about JC basketball is like, hey, don't throw those kids away, man. Build them up. And it doesn't have to be basketball. It could be anything out there that young people are doing. Just give them a chance, man. Hey, give them a shot. Be patient and get them through. No matter what, just get them through.
All right, give him a chance, get him through.
Get them a
All right,
chance.
Coach. We appreciate you. That's going to be a wrap.
That's a wrap with Jonathan and Kev. All right, hey, both you guys in Detroit?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
yes, but both of
Yes,
us, we
sir.
are in Detroit.
Both you guys are both in Detroit. Hey, man, that's pretty cool, man. I think I had one other person in this process from Detroit that I talked to, but he wasn't in Detroit when he had done it, but he was a Detroit dude. But that's pretty cool, especially my connection with Coach Hunter, man. That's
Oh yeah.
that's
Oh yeah.
that's pretty interesting. Are you guys Lions fans?
Unfortunately,
Oh,
yeah.
die hard,
Yeah.
I
I'm
am.
die
I'm a
hard. No, it
diehard
ain't. No,
Detroit.
no, no. It's
You're a
it's changing
diehard
this year. It
fan.
ain't. It ain't no.
Diehard.
It ain't no. Unfortunately, it's changing this year. New
Well, hey,
regime.
I don't know what's going on with. I don't. You'll like golf. I think you'll like golf. No, I watched him. I watched him play. I watched him play. I mean, he's not going to win any games for you, but you know what? He won't lose one. He won't lose one. And when you're trying to build something, you can't lose games. And he's not going to lose games. So I think Detroit can be 8-8 next year. So feel good about that.
Man,
All
I'm
right,
hoping that'd be a big accomplishment.
Yeah.
all right, most definitely. That's a wrap for keeping it real on Be-Moor Radio with Jonathan and Kevin. We'll catch y'all at the next one. All right, Kevin, man, we had a very special guest in Coach Robinson from East LA Community College, one of the stars from Last Chance U basketball. Kevin, I just want to ask you like a quick takeaway from your show. Like what did you learn about that, or like what do you think that was cool or important to know about it?
Honestly, one big takeaway from the show is that JUCO is a grind, man. It's a true grind. Seeing those young men in that atmosphere, and like Coach Robinson said, those California JUCO schools don't have scholarships, so they have to find their own living, have to get their own transportation. So just to see them do that consistently every single day, just to get that scholarship and move on to the next level, it just shows like it's a different type of grind in that JUCO atmosphere, and those players put in the work. We all saw that they were a really successful team, and who knows what could have happened if COVID didn't end their season. But I enjoyed everything from the first to the last show.
Yeah, most definitely. I really liked Coach's insight, about like the logistics and some of the things that the show didn't necessarily have, like about the travel, like some of the more personal stuff, and like how that pressure can be added on top of things that they're already dealing with.
Right.
And you see the Netflix series, them just navigating and managing through that. I really like Coach's point about the about being able to balance mentorship and coaching, because to them, they know it's not all about what's going on the court, about dribbling the ball. It's about like what they do outside of it, the stuff that's going to keep them there or move them on to the next level.
No, absolutely. We got to see that firsthand watching the series, because a few players, they were going through some personal stuff off the court, and as a coach, if you don't have that relationship or that mentorship with them, you don't know what they're going through. But the coaches, made it comfortable for the players to come talk to them, about whatever they were going through, and that's really important for the success of a team as a whole, not only just on the basketball court, but outside the court as well. So, yeah, Coach Robinson, I loved how he explained that and talked about that with us. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited. It was unfortunate that they didn't get to play this past season, but come 2022, East LA, it's gonna be a school on the map. So.
Oh yeah, more on the map than they already are.
Right.
Yeah, COVID did knock them out from that last season, but they are gearing up for this season, for this fall. But yeah, hey, that's a wrap for Keeping It Real on Be-Moor Radio. You listen to us every Tuesday and Thursday at noon, and also at 7 p.m. on the Be-Moor Radio app and wherever else that you get your streaming podcasts. See you on the next one.